ChatGPT Images 2.0. On April 21st, 2026, OpenAI dropped a new image model that made every other generator feel just a little nervous. This is GPT Image 2, and the difference shows up fast. It can generate 2K images, keep characters consistent across multiple shots, and somehow spell things correctly inside images, which, if you've used older models, already feels like a technological miracle. Text in images used to look like your keyboard sneezed. Now it actually reads like language. Progress. There are two modes. Instant mode is quick and gets the job done. Thinking mode slows down a bit but gives you cleaner structure and better results. Basically, one is good enough. The other is okay, now it actually understands what I meant. This isn't OpenAI's first big moment in image generation. Back in March 2025, their earlier model kicked off the Ghibli wave. Everyone on the internet suddenly had a Studio Ghibli version of themselves. Sam Altman swapped his own profile picture for a Ghiblified version of himself. The White House and the Indian government started posting Ghiblified political imagery. OpenAI's GPUs were melting so hard they had to slap on rate limits just to keep the system alive. That was the moment AI image generation went fully mainstream, and GPT Image 2 is the sequel to that moment. This new model builds on that, but the real difference is under the hood. Most image generators use diffusion. They start with random noise and suddenly clean it up step by step until it becomes an image. It's basically turning static into something meaningful, like finding shapes in clouds, but with math. GPT Image 2 does it differently. It's autoregressive. Instead of removing noise, it builds the image piece by piece, predicting what should come next. Kind of like writing a sentence, except the sentence is a picture. And that's why it feels different. It's actually thinking through the image as it builds it. Now, to understand why that matters, you have to look at everything else. Nano Banana Pro. Before this, editing an image felt like pulling a lever on a slot machine. You didn't fix things, you just hit generate again and hoped this time the hands looked normal, the text made sense, and nothing randomly turned into a melted object in the background. Then Google dropped Nano Banana Pro, and suddenly you could actually edit. The big shift was precision. Instead of generating the entire image, you could change one specific part and leave everything else untouched. Swap a product color, adjust lighting, remove an object, without the rest of the image falling apart like it forgot what it was doing. Pixel level control, not full reset chaos. It also introduced strong multi-image fusion. You could take multiple reference images, different angles, different styles, and combine them into one clean, coherent result. Before this, mixing references usually meant confusing the model. Here, it actually understands what you're trying to merge. That's why it blew up so fast in the second half of 2025. Small businesses, Etsy sellers, e-commerce brands, even agencies started using it as a replacement for traditional product photography. Instead of setting up lights, cameras, and a full shoot, you just edit reality into what you needed. Cheaper, faster, and no one had to argue about lighting setups. Its sweet spot is clear. Product shots, marketing visuals, retouching. Anything where you already have an image and want to refine it instead of starting from zero. But that's also the limitation. If you're generating something completely from scratch, it's not always the strongest option. It shines when there's something to work with. Give it a base and it becomes incredibly precise. Give it nothing and it's just slightly less magical. Midjourney. After editing got fixed, the next problem was style. Not just making an image, but making one that actually looks good without you fighting it like you're negotiating with a very stubborn artist. That's where Midjourney comes in. For a long time, it basically owned the AI art look. Cinematic lighting, painterly detail, dramatic everything. You could generate something completely random and it would still look like it belonged in a movie trailer or on someone's $5,000 wallpaper setup. At one point, if it looked too good to be real, it was probably Midjourney. And it went viral for all the wrong reasons. In March 2023, an image of the Pope wearing a white puffer jacket spread across the internet. It racked up over 30 million views. Fooled celebrities like Chrissy Teigen, and people genuinely debated if it was real. Around the same time, fake arrest photos of a certain former president flooded social media. Also Midjourney. That was the moment everyone collectively realized, oh, we might have a problem. For years, Midjourney lived inside Discord. which meant generating art felt less like using software and more like casting spells in a group chat. Type a command, wait, and hope the AI understood your vibe. Eventually it moved to the web, which made things a lot more normal. Then came the updates. V7 in April 2025 added personalization, faster draft mode, even voice prompting. Sounds impressive. In practice, a lot of people looked at it and went, "This feels like V6 with better lighting." Not bad, just not mind-blowing. Then V8 Alpha dropped in March 2026. Better quality, better consistency, but still tied to fast mode. So yes, it looks amazing, and yes, your subscription is working overtime. That's where Midjourney sits now. Still the go-to if you want beautiful images without overthinking it. But now it has competition. Some models are better at realism, others at logic. Stable Diffusion and the open source Lineage. In August 2022, Stability AI released Stable Diffusion 1.5 as open source, and overnight, image generation stopped being a private club. You didn't need an invite, a subscription, or permission. If your PC could handle it, you could run it locally. And people did, a lot. One artist's name, Greg Rutkowski, became one of the most used prompts in the entire ecosystem. Not because he was collaborating, but because people were using his style without permission. His name racked up over 400,000 uses as a prompt keyword, surpassing Picasso and Da Vinci combined. He never agreed to any of it. He just woke up one day as the unofficial mascot of a backlash he didn't ask to be part of. Then came the legal side. In January 2023, a group of artists filed Anderson versus Stability AI. Weeks later, Getty Images sued too. Stable Diffusion became the legal lightning rod for the entire industry. Every copyright argument about AI art still traces back to those cases. Technically though, it kept evolving. SDXL made things bigger and better while still running on consumer GPUs. And then came low-res, which let you train specific styles or concepts in hours. Want a custom art style? Train it. Want a character? Train it. Suddenly everyone was their own mini AI lab, which sounds cool until your GPU starts sounding like it's about to take off. Then tools like Comfy UI showed up, node-based workflows, full control, production pipelines. At this point, you're not just generating images, you're basically directing them like a movie, except the actors are made of math. Then came SD3, and things didn't go as smoothly. Around the same time, newer models started outperforming it, even inside its own ecosystem. By 2026, Stable Diffusion isn't at the top anymore. Quick question, which AI model are you actually using right now? Drop it in the comments. And if you're finally understanding what makes each of these different, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Flux. After the rough SD3 phase, several lead researchers from Stability AI split off and founded Black Forest Labs in 2024. And instead of trying to fix what was already there, they just built something new. That became Flux. The first version, Flux 1, immediately got attention because it did two things at once. It matched Midjourney's aesthetic quality, but pushed further on photorealism. Not "this looks good," more like, "Wait, is that a real photo?" Which is a slightly concerning upgrade, depending on how you look at it. Then came the full lineup. By January 2026, Flux 2 expanded into multiple versions. Max for full production quality, Pro for scaling, Dev for local open weight use, and Klein for speed. Yes, they named one Klein, which sounds small but still quietly outperforms things that used to need a whole workstation. Flux 2 Max is the headline version. It can generate up to 4 megapixel images, handle up to 10 reference images at once, and do it up to 3 times faster than most comparable models. You can basically hand it a mood board and say, "Make this real," and it actually listens, which is great for productivity and slightly terrifying for photographers. I'll be honest, the first time I saw a Flux output next to an actual DSLR photo, I had to look twice to figure out which was which. That used to be a multi-step prompt engineering nightmare. Now, it's one line of text. That's the trade-off though. Flux is heavy focused on realism, clean lighting, accurate materials, believable scenes. If you want something that looks like it came out of a camera, this is where it shines. But if you want painterly, stylized, dramatic art, Midjourney still has the edge. Flux is less fantasy artist, more professional camera that never gets tired. And this isn't a small experiment. By late 2025, the company raised around $300 million, which is a strong signal that this is meant for real-world production, not just demos. DALL-E. April 2022, DALL-E 2 generated an avocado shaped like an armchair, and somehow that was enough to convince everyone AI might be real. It sounds like a joke, but that image went everywhere. Overnight, AI art went from research lab demo to why is my feed full of this? Then came the chaos phase. That same year, Craiyon, also known as DALL-E Mini, blew up online. It wasn't official, it wasn't accurate, and it definitely didn't care what you actually asked for. But it was free, fast, and every weird internet post that summer looked like it came out of it. Slightly cursed, slightly impressive, and completely unstoppable. Then things got smarter. In October 2023, DALL-E 3 showed up inside ChatGPT, and the real upgrade wasn't just better images, it was prompt rewriting. You could type something vague, messy, or completely unclear, and it would quietly fix it for you. No more learning prompt engineering, just describe what you want like a normal human, finally. And then it just faded out. DALL-E 3 got replaced, then replaced again with no big goodbye, which tells you something. OpenAI wasn't trying to build a standalone image tool. The goal was always bigger than that. Images were just becoming a feature inside something else. And that whole timeline from avocado chairs to now leads directly to 2026. Seedream 4.5 and ByteDance's image stack. While most of the attention goes to the big Western models, a lot of the real volume is happening somewhere else entirely. ByteDance has quietly built an entire AI stack, Doubao, Seedream, Seedance, covering chat, images, and video. Most users outside China have barely heard of them, but at scale, this is one of the largest image generation ecosystems in the world. It's just not loudly marketed in English-language internet spaces. Seedream 4.5 is the standout in that lineup. It consistently ranks around the global top tier, especially strong in areas most models still struggle with: accurate Asian facial features and clean multilingual text rendering. Then there's Seedance, which pushed into video generation and immediately ran into trouble. Copyright concerns around training data and output similarity led to parts of the video pipeline being paused or restricted, which is becoming a familiar pattern in this space. The tech moves faster than the legal framework around it. The other interesting detail is distribution. Outside China, these tools don't have the same unified presence. They exist through APIs and scattered apps, but they're caught in regulatory uncertainty across the US and EU. So while the models themselves are competitive, access is fragmented depending on where you are. In Western narratives, these tools feel less visible. In reality, they're just operating in a parallel ecosystem most users don't interact with directly. Grok Imagine, powered by xAI's Aurora engine, is built to feel less restricted from the start. Aurora itself is an autoregressive mixture of expert system. Same general family as models like GPT Image 2, meaning it generates outputs step by step instead of using diffusion. The first full release, Grok Imagine 1.0, arrived on February 1st, 2026. It supports text to image, image to video, 720p generation, 10-second clips, and even native audio. In other words, it doesn't just generate visuals, it tries to generate full scenes. And it didn't launch quietly. By January 2026, the system was already generating scale that most competitors don't publicly talk about. Over 1.2 billion videos in a single month. At that point, it stops being a tool and starts looking more like a content factory running in the background of a social platform. The key selling point is control, or more accurately, the lack of it. Grok Imagine operates with fewer content restrictions compared to systems like DALL-E or Midjourney. In January 2026, that tension showed up at scale. Roughly 4.4 million non-consensual synthetic images were generated in just 9 days. Regulators came in hard, and Grok had to gate the system behind paid access as damage control. It was basically the 2023 Pope photo moment, except 1,000 times bigger and a lot less funny. And it wasn't a one-off moment either. By March 2026, Grok Imagine V2 had already arrived, improving audio sync, realism, and character consistency. So, which model should you actually use? By 2026, the question isn't what's the best image model. It's which one do I open so I don't waste 20 generations getting the same image but worse. If you want photorealism or commercial work, use Flux 2 Max. It's fast, sharp, and good enough to quietly replace a studio shoot while everyone pretends it still involved lighting setups. If you want artistic or cinematic styles, Midjourney V7 is still the go-to, and V8 Alpha is for when you want the same thing, just slightly more expensive and slightly prettier. If you're editing images, it's Nano Banana Pro. Nothing else comes close. Everything else is basically regenerate and pray. If you need structured visuals, diagrams, or clean text, ChatGPT Images 2.0 in thinking mode is the safest option. It actually reads your prompt instead of emotionally interpreting it. If you want pure speed, Flux 2 Klein is built for fast iteration. Quick generations, so you can crank out 50 versions and somehow still pick the first one. If you want local and open source control, it's still SDXL or Flux 2 Dev in comfy UI. More setup, more control, and more time wondering why your GPU sounds like a jet engine. And if you're in the X ecosystem and want fewer rules, Grok Imagine is the wild card. Fast, flexible, and occasionally too flexible. So yeah, there's no best model anymore. Just the one you pick before your patience runs out. Which model are you actually using day to day? And which one surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. If this finally made the AI image space make sense, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, here's the thing. You just learned about every AI image model, but images are only one piece of the puzzle. Every chatbot, every coding assistant, every reasoning engine you use is powered by a different AI model underneath. GPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, DeepSeek, and a dozen others most people can't keep straight. That's exactly what we're covering next. Every AI model explains simply which one writes best, which one codes best, which one's actually worth paying for, and which ones are quietly running the entire AI industry behind the scenes. Click the video on screen right now, and I'll see you there.